I want you to meet Valeria. Valeria is a little more than 8 years old today. For me personally, it has been a change of life until you get an angel like Valeria. An angel like Valeria? You can't be prepared for the worst. The worst case scenario, there is no way you are not prepared with a health issue, diagnosis, or several misdiagnoses. And then that cold, calculating part of you that you have lived with starts to make you like an electroshock. It starts to come back. Electroshock. It starts to return you to a sensitive part that you probably have hidden, and you need to wake up and try to combine those two, because two parts of every human being, the reason and the feeling. First, it gives you sadness. After 10 days of analysis and studies, we were given a diagnosis of a very rare syndrome that not even the doctors understand well what it consists of. There is very little information, so we summarize it in two things: in a diagnosis and in a prognosis. When the diagnosis is the right one, what you can change is the prognosis. The prognosis we were given was a rather discouraging prognosis of a few months to live. Dex relates it to death. It is as if we had both died.
When I found out I was going to have a baby, well, any amount of expectation, any amount of plans. At 3 months, Valeria already had her room decorated with her tutus. The delivery started to get complicated, and Valeria was born premature. She was born at 6 months, but a week later, the baby started to have renal problems and chronic infections. And Valeria was crying around the clock. At 6.5 months, they decided to do a more invasive study. They realized that she had a kidney malformation. By this time, Valeria barely weighed 3 kilos. She was absolutely malnourished, dehydrated, and we spent these 6 months in the hospital. She was absolutely malnourished, dehydrated, and we spent these 6 months in the hospital with a nasogastric tube to feed her. Valeria, she was in intensive care for about a month. We had to give her about 5 blood transfusions, and I saw her worse than she was before she went into surgery. I told the doctors, you promised me she was going to be fine. And it turned out that we began to see that uncertainty in the doctors. More than 40 doctors saw her here in Mexico. They recommended us to seek other opinions in the United States. The transfer was complicated. They took tests from Valeria's nails, hair, skin. That is, she no longer had veins. Her veins in her head and neck were swollen. It was very hard to live through all that when they gave her the diagnosis. And she tells us, we do not know how your daughter got here or how she is alive. Your daughter is hopeless. Your daughter has less than 3 months to live. Your daughter is going to die. You can expect more from a vegetable than from her. That day, I died. That day I had a death, I think, on this plane. And at that moment I felt like I was being riddled against a wall. A very painful death because breathing hurt me, because it didn't give us any hope. And love is that force and that energy that evidently is God that makes us do impossible miracles. My daughter tells me in 1,000 ways, 24 hours a day, how much she loves me. With a look, with a caress, with a noise. I don't need her to tell me with words.
When you find yourself in a case like Valeria's, that sometimes it's hard to breathe, it's hard to eat, that's when you realize how fragile we are. A situation called silent bronchial aspiration, which means that when she swallows, the food goes to her lungs and it is silent because she does not cough. And it is silent because she does not cough. The truth is that she has become the pillar of the family. of our children's family, of our first marriage, obviously, as well as of our whole life, and our whole environment revolves around Valeria, everything. No, you can't imagine her not being there.